Now we're going to talk about linear regression. In linear regression, we have a correlation, which is the strength and direction of the linear relationship between two variables. Now, if there is a strong linear relationship between these two variables, we can make a line of best fit to make predictions about what could happen in the future with this data. We need a correlation coefficient, which we call R, the letter R, to measure how well the data set is fit by this model. R is always in between -1 and 1. It can also include -1 and 1. If R is 1, then the data set forms a straight line with a positive slope. If R is equal to 1, then there is no correlation in the data. And if R is -1, then the data set forms a straight line with a negative slope. The closer that the correlation coefficient is to the absolute value of 1, either 1 or -1, then the stronger the correlation is. So here we have different values of R, different correlation coefficients, and we need to determine what type of correlation that they are. So first we have R equals -0.87. That's a negative number that's pretty close to -1, so we call that a strong negative correlation. It's negative, but it's pretty close to -1, so that's why it's strong. Then we have R equals 0.23. Now that's closer to 0 than it is to 1, so it's positive, but we call that a weak positive correlation. Here R is -0.12. Again, that's pretty weak, but this time it's negative. It's closer to 0 than it is to -1. And then we have R is 0.98. That is a very, very strong positive correlation. So now let's use this information. Here we're going to be interpreting some data. We need to find the line of regression, aka the line of best fit, the correlation coefficient and what type of correlation it is, and then estimate the value of x if y is equal to 1200. So once we do some stuff in our calculator, we're going to get a screen that looks like this, and I'll show you how to do that in a second. But the way that we read this screen, this A value, that's our slope. B is 1185.087, so and so and so. So when we're writing this line of regression, we're going to use that A and B, and we're just going to plug them into y equals ax plus b. So our line of regression is y equals, and when we do this, we're going to round to the 1000th place, so 3 things after the decimal. Then it says, what is the correlation coefficient? To figure out the correlation coefficient, we're going to look at R. We're going to ignore R squared. We're just going to look at R. So our correlation coefficient here is -0.991, again rounding to the 1000th. And the type of correlation, it's negative. It's very, very close to -1, so it's a strong negative correlation. Then we need to estimate the value of x if the y is equal to 1200. So all that means is wherever you see y, substitute 1200. So we've got 1200 equals, and when we calculate that, first we're going to subtract the 1185.087, and we get 14.913 equals -0.58x. Then we can divide, and our x value here is -25.712.